You were in survival mode.
I was in survival mode. I was in survival mode for 7 years. I mean, and it was a result of, not just the abusive relationship that I left, but being abused in the court system.
Yeah.
And I thought, if I'm going to walk through fire and survive, I've got to do something with this.
Welcome to Real Talk, where real people share their stories to help you grow your business. I'm Faisal Karmali. I'm here with Monica Kretschmer. She is the Universal Women's Network CEO, founder. Monica, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you, Faisal. It's a lot nicer in here than it is outside.
Outside, yeah. We've known each other 12 years?
12,
13 years. Mm-hmm. What you've done in your business has been able to unify, more importantly, promote women and entrepreneurship within women. Mm-hmm. What people don't know is how'd you get there. And so part of Real Talk and part of this show is so individuals in this city, in this province, in this country can learn from your struggles, learn from your successes, and you have some hurdles in front of you. You have some opportunities in front of you. Maybe there's somebody out there that can help you too with your business. So we want to kind of build that kind of network online for all entrepreneurs. And I wanted to have you on the show. So thank you for joining us.
Yay. Well, thank you for inviting me. Am I number one?
You're in the top 2. How's that?
Yay. I'm so excited.
So we started off by saying we met over 12 years ago. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't in the best circumstances for you. So I'll leave that open to you. I'm going to drink some wine because...
Well, I think we actually need to cheers to that because it's been 12 years of a journey.
Hang around here because at the end, we've got some business tips from Monica.
In March 2007, as you indicated, it was a really challenging time, more than a challenging time for me. I was freshly... I had a 7-month-old baby, and you and I met in the Calgary Women's Emergency Shelter. I was there because of a situation that, my life was being threatened.
Yeah.
So, and I literally lost about 30 pounds in 2 weeks in the shelter. And I remember some lady come up to me and saying, there's a gentleman here that would like to help some woman in the shelter, and he'd like to give back. And at that time, I'd never heard of you, of course. But she says, are you open to that? And I'm like, absolutely. And that was the first time that you and I actually met. Yeah. And literally it was a handshake with one hand and here's my portfolio with the other. And I really lost track of time between that time. And I don't even know when we next surfaced, but all I know is that you were that
person
for me that I had trusted from the get-go out of that feeling.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad it was you. Because if it would have been somebody else, they could have went away and had a great life, done anything, because I just literally signed everything over into your capable hands. And I remember, that you just were able to help me through that. Now, that situation, I was in hiding twice. It's an unbelievable story what that process was like. But when I talk about it now, when I think back now about the struggles and the challenges, is traumatic and terrifying. But my biggest hurdle and the most terrifying piece was actually when I left the marriage and I was out of the shelter, it was going through the court system.
Yeah.
Because I'd left an abusive relationship. And usually when you leave an abusive relationship, that's the end of the story. But when you're in the court system, it's a whole new bag of worms that continue to be probably my biggest challenge to rebuilding, because it's you don't see the bruises, you don't see the bullying and all the harassment that goes on.
Yeah.
And it's definitely been a big part of my life and a huge challenge to get past.
You've raised your son at the time of you leaving the matrimonial home. He was 7 months old.
Correct.
He's now 13, I think.
Yes.
Our kids are the same age.
Mm-hmm.
And over those 13 years, you've started and built a business. You've been networking and meeting some creative and amazing people around the world. That's not a typical story for women who've gone through what you've gone through. That takes something special, some sort of motivation and drive So I want to kind of spend some time on that part of it.
I look back at it and go, would I change the past? Would I want to go through what I went through at times when I didn't even know if I would, like, seriously. I mean, dark.
Because you were in survival mode.
I was in survival mode. I was in survival mode for, oh my gosh, I would say 7, 8, like, right up until 2014. Like, I was deep survival mode for 7 years. I mean, and it was a result of, you know, not just the abusive relationship that I left, but being abused in the court system because I was being heavily litigated against.
Yeah.
So that I had a total of 14 actions. And, you know, one of them being a defamation action for like $2 million where I couldn't ask for help and nobody wanted to touch my file.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, when I look back at all the challenges that I had, I think it was a great practice for me being an entrepreneur because it's like, okay, got that ball, run with it. There's a boulder, I caught it, you know, throw it back. You know, I was constantly juggling these massive bullets. And I just got really good at managing and compartmentalizing all of the tragedy that was coming ahead of me. And I would, just to kind of breathe, I would have to learn how to get past that in order to go on to the next. I remember, you know, having to do visitation with my baby. And, you know, he was a young boy and, you know, in a parking lot. And, you know, I was constantly being watched and surveillanced by PIs watching every move. I mean, I had to borrow cars, you know, because my laptop and my car and everything was taken away from me.
Yeah.
I mean, I literally left with a bag and my baby and was on the hook for 2 properties.
Yeah.
And then had all these actions coming my way. Meanwhile, I'm on maternity leave getting $400 from the government. I ran out of financial assistance in the first 6 months.
Of course.
But I look back in all of those situations, I don't know actually how I got through it other than being in survival mode.
What did that teach you to start this business up?
So I felt that, you know, I'd been through this for a purpose and a reason. And I thought, if I'm going to walk through fire and survive, I've got to do something with this. I'm not going through all of that work in that 7 years of what I call my 7-year journey to just do a regular day job. I knew that I'd been tested for a bigger purpose, which was starting this community. There wasn't a lot of support for women with businesses at that time.
Yeah.
And out popped Canadian Business Checks was breaking down the silos, putting women, so there's entrepreneurs and professionals and, you know, moms that had stepped out but need to step back in. So I just wanted to create an environment, you know, where everybody felt that they had something to contribute and belong. Yeah. I built Women of Inspiration to honor my lawyer in 2015. That was a vehicle that grew organically to celebrate the everyday heroes. It wasn't happening where there wasn't that recognition. And it was almost like a wake-up call for me that that's what I had to build. So, you know, 5 years later, we now have a national awards program that's grown from one single award to, you know, I think we gave away like almost 100 awards, like 93 awards this year across Canada.
Crazy.
And in Toronto.
Crazy.
Yes, next year it's 4 cities.
There you go.
I dug deep into one of my core values. Well, I knew my core values that got me through that 7-year journey were the courage, confidence, commitment, and integrity. Those became my core values for my business. Mm-hmm. I figured that I would just get this business up and running. And if I didn't put 1,000% into it, it would never get done.
And that's why you quit your job.
Yeah.
What a big risk. Many people aren't comfortable with doing that. They need some sort of safety net or guarantee. Well, did that go through your mind?
In my mind, I knew what I had to offer was bigger than what I was doing. I felt bigger than what I was doing.
Wow. Say that again.
I felt bigger than what I was doing. Like, who gets through everything that I got through? Mm-hmm. Like, I went through 14 actions, 22 days of trial. I actually ran a marathon, my first marathon, to get me through trial. Like, that's where I challenge myself. I'm like, okay, if I'm going to get through 22 days of trial, where does my mindset need to be so I can actually physically, mentally be prepared to get through that 4,800 hours of litigation? Okay, add that up, Faisal. That's 2 years full time.
Correct.
22 days of trial. I think OJ had 23.
Yeah.
Right? This is family law. It's like a case beyond cases. But I knew that if I can get through all of that, I'm going to put all my power into me. and there's no stopping me. So I became fearless.
And then how did you start off and launch this business?
I launched in Canmore, and I always share this story because I like to give a plug to Karina Birch. It was Rocky Mountain Soap Company.
Yeah.
And I was doing I figured, okay, 2,500 women. If I get 1% and launch the day of her race, and I flicked on the switch on my website, that's a whole other story. I thought I'd be flooded with people coming to find me. Anyways, you can laugh even louder, right?
Well, I was with you when you
Right?
launched it, so I
Yeah,
remember the
yeah.
stories, but we'll touch on that in a second. Carry on.
Right? So you think you flip the switch on your website that everybody's going to start coming. I launched at this event with 2,500 women. I thought if I could just get 1% of these women, so that's like 25 of these 2,500 women, then I've got a community start building.
Yeah.
So I threw everything on the table and I haven't looked back, and it's really been an interesting journey because I look back at the events that I started doing. I think I've produced about 80 events to date.
Yeah.
And I look back at the crazy ones that I did before, like really? Where was my marketing?
Yeah.
I've done some really bad events and I've done some really great events.
But you need those bad events to learn from.
Correct.
You just can't start off and start having good events.
Yeah, I didn't know. I was just starting to do events. I interview people. I, tried to create experiences. And, now I'm very clear on what it is that I need to do and what I want to do. And I'm going to do it globally.
Yeah. So let's go back to the whole website thing. When
Okay.
you started off marketing, we had a conversation
Yes.
about how are we going to market this? How are you going to get the name out? How are you going to get enough people to come to see you? Membership was one that we were talking about in the past. And then you had hiccups along the way. And I call them hiccups because they're just short periods in time and then you move on. At that point in time, it was like, oh shit, now comes the website's not going according to plan.
Yeah.
What are we going to do, right? So you launched the website and we all thought, hey, you just turn on the switch and all these people come flooding in. Mm-hmm. That didn't happen. Mm-hmm. What happened?
So, the website was a whole big challenge as well. I had no idea what I was doing, building a website. I really just had a vision with what I wanted to create, but I didn't have content. Content is king.
Yeah.
I had no membership. I had no content. I had no social media presence.
Yeah.
And let's go back to that even. Look how important social media is today.
Yeah.
And I was completely off the radar. But it was scary for me because I hadn't been public. I'd been in hiding for so long because I was so deep into the justice system and I was so scared of losing my son that I literally was not visible anywhere.
Yeah. So you started Canadian Business Chicks at that time. Mm-hmm. Walk me through, high level, what the business model is. Like what was Business Chicks trying to accomplish? And there are many people out there who are motivating speakers or coaches or, network specialists. That's not what you do.
I'm a connector. I visualize things and then I go. So I say I'm a visionary. And, when I first launched the company, my goal is to break down those silos.
Yeah.
So I launched my company as a for-profit business, which, if you look at 95.9% of the women's organizations out there, they're all non-for-profits. They're all corporate companies that have women's organizations like committees. Mm-hmm. They're all committees. And I chose to do a complete business based on connecting in events and membership, and really that's all I do. That's my 100% focus.
Yeah.
I host every event that I do. I host that. It comes out of my pocket. I sell tickets. You come. Everything that I've ever done has all been self-funded. And thank God now we've been building such a great following that we have some really amazing brands and partnerships that we're working towards. But it took me 5 long, hard years to build that.
So people don't understand that.
They don't get that.
All they see is where you are today.
Correct.
So they'll go on social media, they'll see you live, they'll see you on TV, and that's all they see. And they don't see the struggle what's taken you to this point. People don't understand what you have to do and sacrifice to be a business owner today.
And
It sounds sexy. It sounds sexy to be a business owner. I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to motivate people. I want to get... It sounds very nice and sexy. But no one knows how many hours a day you have to work and what you have to sacrifice and what you have to... Like, you're a single mother and you've got a very young child and you have a vision of what you want in the future. How did you decide between time for your kid, dealing with the courthouse, and then your passion? Mm-hmm. Like, how do you juggle that?
Well, I actually don't think I haven't stopped, Faisal, since 2007. I'm still in survival mode.
Yeah.
Like a different survival mode. So now I'm putting all my energy. I'm like, if I'm going to work that hard just to keep my head above water, now I get to work that hard to build something for me and leave my legacy and do something meaningful in the world. I've been working at that pace for so long that it's so natural for me. I get so much more done. I mean, what people don't know behind the scenes is that court stuff, I'm actually a self-represented litigant still, and I don't talk about that. So here we are talking about it because I think it's now time to talk about that. And what people don't realize is that when I started my business in 2014, that's when my lawyer and I severed paths after that 4,800 hours.
Yeah.
She went back to her law firm. I started my business.
Yeah,
I'm still paying off my divorce to this day.
Yeah.
How crazy is that?
And that's something that everybody has to realize. That it's not easy, and you're still paying it off.
Still paying
today.
it off today. Probably for the next,
This is why we have alcohol here. You know that, right?
Yeah, let's drink.
This is a struggle, and for you to actually open up and say that you're still paying off your divorce is an aha moment for a lot of people. It's a moment for saying, you can still do it all, but you have to understand you may have to have some sacrifices financially, which means you're paying off the past so you can hopefully live for the future.
Well, and here's something too, and I think that, we could be here all day, but I started rebuilding when I was 43. Don't add up. Anyways, it's all out there. Be proud, Monica. So I started building at 43. And when you go through divorce, you're working through divorce, and then you rebuild, there's nothing for savings.
You're running on empty.
You are. You're just trying to pay off that stuff. So why I'm motivated to work so hard is number one, because I've been tested for a bigger purpose. But number two, I know that I'm now in the driver's seat for rebuilding my future. And I'm the only one responsible for that. So that's why I work so hard.
Mm-hmm. What kind of advice can you give me? 2 pieces of advice for starting out entrepreneurs like you?
Yes.
Give some advice to those people. What should they be prepared to go forward with now?
I think it's essential to be able to pivot. I think that technology is so strong right now. There's so many, you have to know about the technology yourself. As a leader of your organization, you can't just give that task to anybody because that's your brand. Okay. So I think that's really important.
You don't have to do everything, but you have to understand it.
You have to understand it, and you have to be able to delegate it to the right person. I think that's really important, especially because content is becoming, it's all about the stories of the businesses and the people involved, as you know.
Yeah.
And
that's why we're here.
That's why we're here.
We want the story.
Right? And even the top big companies are all going to the stories.
Yeah.
So I think that's really important. Starting out is it's getting harder and harder to do it, I have to say, because you have to be wearing so many different hats. Mm-hmm. Like, I can't even imagine how hard it would be to come out right now. I mean, I've been a business owner for 5 years, but I'm not new to business.
Correct.
Right? I'm in my 30s, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you were to start all over again, this is day one.
Day one.
And you know what you know now. What's the first 2 things you would do?
I would be very, very clear on my foundation. Set your brand, get your IP.
But don't you find people who think about that so much get paralysis by analysis? They just freeze in their seat. They don't do anything because they keep on thinking, okay, what should I do? How do I get my brand? How do I get all that out? When they could just, you tried everything. You've had successful events, not so successful events, and you tested it. You had no clue if it was going to work out until after.
You just have to be confident in yourself. Honestly, if I was telling anybody that's just starting out, you have to think where do you want to go? And I always knew I wanted to go global.
Yeah.
From the onset. And if you look on my business cards, I have my manifesto on there. In my very first business cards that I ever had, they cost me 19 cents, Faisal.
Yeah.
And I put my mission statement on the inside. I was very clear of my foundation, very clear of my mission statement. And I applied for that IP, the trademark right away.
Yeah.
I think that right now, because of everything being so global, you have to know where it is that you want to go and make sure that you've got all the things in your apple cart. Get your social media handles. It's almost like you have to build where you want to be out of the gate, and then you fill in the gaps.
Interesting.
Does that make sense?
It does.
You've got to go and write down all of the stuff where you vision you're going to be and make sure that you've got your handles. If you don't have your handles in this social media crazed world, it's only getting bigger. You're going out of the wrong gate.
Walk me through
Yes.
your challenges today.
I've got
You've
lots of them.
built this network. You've rebranded this company. You've got presence in many parts of North America, if not the world. So what are the hurdles you have today?
Oh my God, the hurdles, there's only one of me. I need 20 of me.
So I'm going to clone you.
I need to clone
Okay,
myself.
so when you say that, you need 20 of you, because even I feel that in my business and so forth. What do you mean by when you say to clone you? Like, what has to get done that you have to do?
It's just a chicken and the egg thing. Like I desperately need investors in order to grow, because the capital with what my plans are requires capital.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And, it's exhausting.
Now, capital can come in two forms. One is cash.
Yeah.
The other one is time.
Well, I need both. Cash is king, though, Faisal. Cash
Okay.
is king. I need people that are industry experts on my team,
Okay.
that are smarter than me,
Okay.
that are, do you know, in all
That's
areas.
a key important piece.
It is so important.
Many business owners feel that they have to be the smartest person in the room.
Oh, no, I want to be surrounded by brilliant people, uber successful people that can help take us to another level, because I've got the vision. Now I need the experts around me. So that's what I'm looking for.
What kind of experts?
Just all the areas of your major players to open up doors for you, do connections that have run multi-million-dollar businesses that go global. Those are the type of individuals that I want to have on my team, because that's where we're going.
And so you want people to come on your team to push this to a global level.
Yes.
So that's a key piece,
It's huge.
right? And so capital, connections, skill set, and you need people that can help and share that vision. So now, we've heard you say, I have a vision. We haven't heard the vision yet.
So, oh my God, it's global, and it includes Women of Inspiration as our rewards and recognition program. That is so key. We can't stop celebrating women. What we need to do is celebrate more women, and not just the CEOs of the Fortune 500 companies. We're talking the women that have overcome adversity, like myself, that are doing amazing things. And I'm always so amazed by all the stories that come in every single year that I see.
Yeah.
I want to be able to do that around the world. We're so leading edge here in Canada. There's lots of work to do in Canada. We haven't even tipped the iceberg yet.
Yeah.
But when I travel and I talk to people in other countries, they're like, we need you here. I'm like, I'm coming. So that's part of the vision, is to scale and grow the Universal Women's Network
Okay.
awards program.
Okay.
Each one of our award recipients become mentors.
Okay.
Actually take their award away if they don't mentor.
Wow.
Well,
No one knows that.
Well, it's part of the process, right? It's like if you're recognized as a leader, you need to be sharing that knowledge. And it's important to share that knowledge. So as we build and grow our Women of Inspiration nationally and then globally, then all of our Women of Inspiration will then also be elevated to a whole other level. Now, they will continue to grow and connect at a global level. And then they'll also continue their leadership journey and create their legacy. Speaking, so people can hear the stories, because that's one thing that I get back. It's like, I love all these women, but I don't know their story. And at the awards ceremony, there's never enough time to tell their stories, ever. So there's always going to be women that are inspiring others. So that's part of the vision, is to continue to grow the global Women of Inspiration program, and then do the roadshow tours around the world. Great big events. I mean, we're talking, a couple thousand people.
Yeah.
And I want to attract the everyday. I want to attract like the business community to our events.
Correct.
So I'm building it out, because normal awards programs is the only people in the room is the award recipients and their friends and family.
Yeah.
So I've got the secret sauce for something else, that we want to make it a global event where people come to connect with all the movers and shakers.
Okay. You've had many times over the years to quit.
Not really.
You could have.
I could have.
You could have just packed it in and said, I'm going to go back to my old job, or I'm going to take a 9-to-5er and live it safe. Why didn't you quit?
Because I never give up.
I want to thank you so much for coming and joining us today. And before we say goodbye, have I missed anything? Is there any opportunity, or what's happened for 2020? That might be a good idea.
Well, for 2020, it's so great that you asked me. I have a huge, big step that we're taking, because we're not only going national, but we're doing it in 4 cities: Calgary, Vancouver, Toronto, and Montreal.
Okay.
We're doing Women of Inspiration in 4 cities, looking for sponsors. So if you are a sponsor, I'm just saying, like, we need support to pull this off. We're not doing 600-person events. We're doing 2,500, 3,000-person events with the public, and in a big major way. And that will springboard us onto our global prospects. But nominations open January 1st. So if you do know a woman of inspiration or a man that supports her, we have nominations opening up. So I would suggest checking our website, theuniversalwomansnetwork.com. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. For those of you that are on LinkedIn, any of the corporate partners and sponsors, I encourage you to reach out to me. And we do work with corporate companies as well for Support Her, because I have great insight on how to help them with their diversity programs.
Thanks for joining us today, Monica.
Thank you.
Want to help your business prosper? Click subscribe for more videos.